Okay, good morning everyone. Shalom Aleichem, Bruchim Habayim. We're going to be doing a very interesting topic today on Daf Samach in Masechta Ksubos. And the topic is nursing, the milk of a human being. The Gemara says that there's a certain time frame that after that time it's not permitted. The Gemara even says a lashon of kiyonek sheketz. It's like nursing from an abominable thing. The lashon of the Gemara on Daf Samach, the Gemara says Tanu Rabbanan yoinek tinoik v'hoilei chades v'ma'abra chodesh. A child could continue to nurse for 24 months. Mikan ve'elech, from there on. Ki yoinek sheketz. It's like being yoinek a sheketz. What does that mean? Ki yoinek sheketz. We're going to see Rashi in a moment. The Rabbi Yeshua says even for 4 or 5 years, and once you stop, which the Gemara later says means for 3 days, then it's kiyonek sheketz. The Gemara asks, but Rabbi Yeshua said a different shear. Rabbi Yeshua said the shear is that so long as even if a child could hold a package, he's allowed to nurse. And the Gemara says adi v'adi chada shira. It's all one shear. Fine. Bottom line is, there seems to be a parameter that after a certain amount of time, you're not allowed to nurse anymore. The lashon of Rashi is ki yoinek sheketz, ki ilu yoinek davar meshukatz, as if the child is nursing something meshukatz. In the material that Daf Hashavua distributed, they bring from Shalos Teshuvos Emek HaTshuva, that the lashon of Rashi is mashma, that it's not just an Isser D'Rabbanan, but rather it's an Isser Chefza. It's a Chefza D'Isura. Not just an Isser Gavra, not just it's Isser for the person to partake of it, but the item itself is actually infused as if it's a Chefza D'Isura. They bring that the Ravid on the Taras Kayanim explains that they were Masakein, drinking from a woman, Bizman HaIsser, that it has a din of yoytse min hatame. We know that anything that emanates from a non-kosher species is tameh. So the Rabbanon gave a din of the milk of the mother after the allotted time as yoytse min hatame. So there's like an isser chefza. It's an isser d'Rabbanon, but it's kiyoinek sheketz. It's like an isser chefza. The Rosh, however, seems to give a different reason why nursing is asar. The Rosh says, in the parakeh of Ksuvas Oisyotes, Dam sha'ala kikar goyrev oichle. If you eat bread and there's blood on your mouth and it gets on the loaf and you eat it, you have to scrape off the blood. Mishum asel chlufi b'dam acher. You're going to come to confuse it with other blood. Kivan shapiresh shebein hashinayim. Kivan shapiresh, since it's separated from the body. But shebein hashinayim, the blood in between the teeth, moitzitzah, you could suck it out, or boiloi, fine. Says the Rosh, dam mahal cheshtayim mutter. The blood of a human is permitted. V'chilufehem b'chalav. Imloi piresh, aser. If the milk is not separated, it's aser. Te'asi lechlufe b'chalav behema tmeya. You're going to come to confuse it with the milk of a non-kosher animal. Avol pireish mutter, but once it separates, it's permitted. So people are going to say if you can nurse from the mother, you can nurse from a non-kosher animal. The Rosh seems to be arguing with Rashi. Rashi says the Chachamim gave it a din of a davar meshukatz. The Ravid explains like something which is yoytze min hatameh. But the Rosh says no, it's merely a gezerah d'Rabbanan that you might come to confuse it with the milk of a non-kosher animal. Here was a question, and we sort of asked this question when we were learning the Gemara, and that is, what in the world is the problem for the kid to continue nursing after 2 years? There's an Isser D'Rabbanan, not on the kid. The kid's below the age of chinuch. People are, they're very machbid to bring their kids to shul below the age of chinuch. Why? For what? So they could train them not to daven, so that the rest of their life they won't daven. There's no mitzvah of chinuch below the age of 6 and 7. Are you allowed to give such a kid a davar asur? No, you can't. You can't be machal nevelos suchev. What about an isur d'Rabbanan? Are you allowed to be machal to a child below the age of chinuch in isur d'Rabbanan? It's a famous Machlokes, the Rambam and the Rashba. The Rambam says that it is asur. The Rashba says it is mutter. Well, this Gemara should be a pretty black and white raya to the shita of the Rambam that you're not allowed to feed a child an isur d'Rabbanan. Because otherwise, why in the world can't the mother nurse the child? No, it's an isur d'Rabbanan. Yeah, so for who? It's an isur d'Rabbanan for the child. There's no isur on the child, right? There's no isur on a child below the age of chinuch. Elamai on the parent. A parent can't give a child an isur d'Rabbanan. Where does that come from? So that's a famous Machlokes Rishonim, but this Gemara should show that a parent is a mitzuvah lahafrisha even may isur d'Rabbanan. Now, we're going to now learn a little shtickle in the Machane Efraim. Machane Efraim is one of the very lumdish svarim. On the Rambam, he has Simonim, Rabbi Efraim Navon, and I was remembering this morning very fondly. I was at the kever of the Machane Efraim. Get a load of this. You know where he's buried? He's buried in our good friend's country, Turkey. He's buried in Turkey. So, right now I would not recommend going there, but Rabbi Efraim Navon, he says, Nichta b'tzidai, amadeti, this is on the Rambam, Hilchos Machalas Asuros, Perak Yud Zayin, Halacha Chav Zayin. Amadeti b'katan shaloi higia l'chinuch. Isafile isur d'Rabbanan oilai. Now, listen carefully. If you see a kid eating an isur d'Rabbanan, everyone agrees you do not separate them. A kid on his own who is eating isur d'Rabbanan below the age of chinuch, you do not separate them. That everyone agrees. The question is, can you actively feed them? Can you actively feed a kid isur d'Rabbanan? So Garsina meperk afalpi tanu Rabbanan tinoik yoinik v'hoilech ad chav daled chodesh mikan ve'elech kiyonik sheretz divrei Rebbe Elazar Rabbi Shua Amar afil dal b'heishanim peres achar chav daled chodesh diyonik sheketz. Says the Machane Efraim, Alma afilu b'yisura d'Rabbanan lo yisafinan le'yisura b'yadayim. We see that even in isur d'Rabbanan we cannot actively feed. V'af agav da'adayin lo higia l'chinuch. Even though the kid did not reach the age of chinuch. The kid wants to take on his own. We're not commanded l'hafrishai. But to actively give a child, we see from this Gemara, basically this is a raya to the Shitas Rambam, that asur lahachal akatan afilu isur d'Rabbanan, not like Shitas Rashba, that isur d'Rabbanan leka isur safia lakatan. Stam, it's a good thing, a good yediyah. Are you allowed to feed a kid an isur d'Rabbanan? Machlokes Rambam and Rashba. The Rambam says asur, the Rambam says asur, the Rashba says mutter. So the question is, what's the Rashba going to do with our Gemara, right? There's a famous shita of the Rashba. You're allowed to feed a kid in isur d'Rabbanan. By the way, let's say, here, kitnius. Could you give a kid, an Ashkenazi, could you give an Ashkenazi kid kitnius on Pesach? Yeah? The Rashba says, yeah, of course. The Rambam says no.
Nursing, the mother is partaking in the isser. As opposed to giving it, it's only the child is only doing the isser.
How is the mother partaking? What isser is the mother doing?
She's actively nursing it. The only way the child is getting the milk is through nursing. So she's basically spoon feeding it, putting it in the mouth.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's the Machlokes. Can a parent spoon feed an isser d'Rabbanan to a child? That is the Machlokes, the Rambam and the Rashba.
Unless you're mechalik, you can put it in front of the child feeds itself. That's it. There's a chilik between that and actively spoon feeding the child. Right, but look, safile literally means stuffing the kid, you know? And the Rashba says you're allowed to do that. By the way, when it comes to kitnius, even the Rambam agrees, because kitnius is not isur d'Rabbanan.
It's a minhag. Right? A child needs... But anyway, that's the shaila. What does the Rashba do with this Gemara? See, the mother is participating. Is it more than if she would be, like you said, spoon-feeding the child? So actually, what's interesting is the Rashba Shita is in Yavamas. The Rashba in the Tshuva in Chelik Aleph, Simon Tzadi Beis, someone raises the question to the Rashba. Sha'alta, ma sha'amarta lanu l'sha'avar. That which you asked, shemutar lahachal as a katan issa d'Rabbanan. That you're allowed to feed a kid in issa d'Rabbanan, his kirani, hara'ayos hamachrichos. Uma toimar ba'oisa sha'amru gabei tinok yoinek v'hoilech, kol eser me'arba chodesh, mikan ve'elach ki yoinek sheketz, b'shapiresh, v'yafa gav the cholav isha midrabanan hu, even though the milk of woman is drabanan, v'kolish yisra drabanan, di parish b'mana shari. It's not even such a strict drabanan, because if it's separated from the mother in a kli, it's permitted. So the first thing the Rashba says is he denies it. He said, I never said it's mutter. He said, Kishamarti lahalacha avaloi lamaisa. I said it in Pshat and Yavamis, but it's not like somebody came and asked me Shaila and I said it's mutter. I said Pshat in the Gemara. I never said lamaisa. That's also very interesting. You know, we always debate, is Rashi a paisek? Most Mefarshim say Rashi is not a paisek. Rashi is just saying Pshat in the Gemara. Taisus was saying it lahalacha. Here you have the Rashba. The Rashba is saying he's conceding. I never said it's halacha. I just said it. I said it lahalacha, but not lamaisa. But he says. Let's skip a little bit. Loihi deloy amru kain bedavar sha'anu oisin l'takanasai shel tinak. He says, okay, here he is. That which you asked from our Gemara and Ksubas, it's not a good question. Do you think I said that stamazai, for no good reason, you could feed a kid in Isser D'Rabbanan? Not for the need of the child? I never said you could do it for nothing, for no reason at all. I said if there's a need, if there's a tzoyrach, you could feed a kid in Esrei Rabbanan. But after 2 years, there's no need. Ula Rabbi Eliezer, ein tzarach hanaka labari yosim esem rabba chodesh. There's no need for a kid to nurse for more than 20 months. Or according to Rabbi Yeshua, you could nurse up to 4 or 5 years. Afilu chavalasa aksefai, hayas mikain more than that, ein tzarach hanaka. The Raja says, yes, I in theory hold you could feed a kid in a Sidrabanan when there's a reason to. But there's no reason to feed a kid mother's milk after 24 months, according to Rabbi Lezer, or 5 years, according to Rabbi Yeshua. Even if the kid has what he needs, meaning, even if we need to, and not for the child, like Kizrias Keshusa Utimas Kois Sha'amra Alav Zman Be'erav Yom HaKippurim Kol Shehu L'Tzarkenu V'Loi L'Tzar Chaymamish Al Tinok. So in other words, the first answer of the Rashba is there's got to be a purpose. In theory, could you feed a kid an Isser D'Rabbanan? Yes, says the Rashba. But it has to be a tzorech. In my opinion, after 24 months, according to Rabbi Lezer, after 5 years, according to Rabbi Yeshua, it's not a legitimate tzorech. But then the Rashba says another answer, a very interesting answer. It says, Milvad sheyesh oy tamach. Aside from the fact that there's another reason. Be'ahi deyonek, v'hu, Shechalav tamei loy nisparish b'ksav isurai. It doesn't say explicitly you can't have milk from a non-kosher animal. Ela da'asilan mi gamal shtei pamim. The Gemara in Chulin darshans it. It says gamal 2 times. V'haroya she'ata meinik l'misha yatsa mizman hanaka. Someone who sees that you're nursing, and it's after the time that he needs to nurse. V'harehu k'gadol inyan zeh. Asi la'achlufei u'lameimar dechol chalav, that any milk, v'afilu shel behema tmei mutter, even from a non-kosher animal's mutter, like asur tar ela habasar. The gamal. The Torah only answered the meat of the gamal. The gamal ksev v'loy chalav u'chemoy shehadvash mutter af hachalav kain l'fikach gazru alav. You ready for this? You see a kid, he's 5 years old. He's nursing. It's not that you can't feed to the kid. You're allowed to feed a kid in a Sidrabanan. But in people's mind, this kid doesn't need to nurse. So he's like an adult nursing. And people in their mind are going to think, oh, if you could nurse at 5 years old, then you could drink the milk of a gamal. And in people's mind, it's going to lead them to drink the milk of a non-kosher animal. So it's not because you're allowed to feed a kid in Issur D'Rabbanan, but because this kid doesn't need to nurse, then it's easily confused that people are going to say, you're allowed to have the milk of a camel. Why are we so sensitive that people might come to drink the milk of a camel? Because it doesn't say anywhere you're not allowed to drink the milk of a non-kosher animal. It just says the word gamal 2 times. People might say, well, you're allowed to have the honey of a bee, maybe you're allowed to have the milk of a camel. So we have to be very careful. So it's not that the mother is not allowed to feed this kid, it's that the mother is causing other adults to confuse the chalav of a human with the chalav of a gamal, even though there's a very big difference, because the chalav of a gamal is an Issur D'Oraisa, and the chalav of a human is only D'Rabbanan, and she's technically allowed to feed a kid in Issur D'Rabbanan, but it's gonna cause other people to be lenient regarding drinking milk from a camel. And the Rashba ends off that we don't need this reason, but this shita of the Rashba, that it's mutter to feed a kid in Issur D'Rabbanan, it's only when you really need to. But if you don't have a tzairech, then you don't have to. Okay? That's what we got for today.
Well, what is the needed for the mother that she's engorged? So she needs to express milk out. The only way she doesn't have a pump, just for argument's sake. The only way she can do it is from the child that has a very powerful suction can get the milk out. So it's doing it for her as well.
So the kid is basically relieving her distress.
So it's for the benefit of the mother, which also the child also gets. But here the mother is also getting a benefit. Okay.
Not sure. I don't think so. That would.
But then the Rashba said, if there's any benefit even for the parents, then it's okay.
I'm not clear over here what he means, where he says